it's Becky again. Welcome to Golden to Garden State. Today, as I promised in my first video, I am going to cook up a Mexican recipe, one of my very favorite Mexican recipes. This is called Carne con Chile. Basically translated, it means meat with hot sauce. Not chili, in the sense that we think of it sometimes served in a bowl with beans and ground meat, etc. This is hot sauce. And it's a really simple recipe. Easily you can impress yourself by cooking it, or your guests, your family, whomever. Depending on how many people you're going to serve, that will determine how much meat you use, and I typically use pork. I have 9 assorted pork chops here, pork shoulder blades I believe. I prefer to use some that have fat on them because it actually helps a lot with the cooking and of course with the flavor. And then for the chile, we are going to need tomatoes and jalapenos. You're also going to need your cast iron pan. That's actually really essential because I'll show you why. And a couple really sharp knives. You're also going to need a nice big saucepan or pot to cook the meat in, okay? Let's get started. So the first thing we do is we chop up all of our meat. Cube it, try to cube it all about the same size because we want it to cook evenly. Now the chops that I had, of course, were assorted, and so they did have bones, but the bones are actually great. We want to keep those because we're going to add them into our pot with the meat for added flavor. Next, we're going to add just over a cup of water to this saucepan because what we want to do is somewhat steam the meat. And so by keeping a little bit of water at the bottom of that saucepan, we're going to make sure that the meat steams up a bit. And then finally, we're going to set it on our stove. We're getting ready to cook it up. Add a few pinches of salt, which of course are really going to just help flavor everything. Most of the flavor is really going to come from the chile, from the hot sauce, but we want to make sure that we're not cooking with unsalted meat. So go ahead and salt it up just a bit. You can also add pepper if you'd like, but for now I'm just going to add salt. Cook your meat over medium heat until it starts to really brown and looks like all the water has cooked away and the meat is starting to stick a little bit to the bottom. That's when you know that really your meat is truly cooked. For about 9 of these chops, that'll probably take about 30 to 35 minutes. We're going to cover it to make sure that we're getting as much of that heat kept in the pot as possible. And then just stir it occasionally. Make sure you check on it so that it's not burning. So while our meat is cooking behind us, as you can see, I've covered it. It's good to go. I'm going to check on it every little bit to make sure it's not burning or sticking to the bottom. We're going to start working with the chile. I have 3 tomatoes, medium smallish tomatoes, and 2 jalapenos. The important thing to know about jalapenos is it's very difficult to decipher how spicy they are just on their appearance. So my recommendation is to get an extra tomato, extra 1 or 2 tomatoes, and an extra 1 or 2 jalapenos, depending on how spicy you really want this, in order to either make it spicier or tone down the spiciness by adding more tomato, okay? My husband loves spicy, so we're going to make this with, we're going to start by making it with 3 tomatoes and 2 jalapenos. We need the cast iron pan because we're actually going to roast these vegetables in the cast iron pan. What's important about roasting vegetables in the cast iron pan, or at least the jalapenos and the tomatoes, is to remember that we need to cut open the ends, which will allow a little bit of ventilation. We also need to take out the stem, core, the tomatoes a bit. And again, this is for ventilation. The tomatoes and the jalapenos are going to blister. They're going to get burnt here and there in the cast iron pan. We're going to turn them regularly to make sure that the blistering is pretty even and that we have a nice roast on them overall on most sides and most parts of both the tomatoes and the jalapenos. When we start off with this, we want to make sure that the tomatoes are actually stem side down. That'll help them from wobbling around a bit when you start this off, okay? Now we're going to take our cast iron pan, we're going to actually roast these on medium to high heat until they have blistered on every side, which means we have to watch them and turn them every now and then, okay? Once all of the water has cooked down from the meat, you know, you can see that it starts to stick a little bit, then you know that you're just about at the end. I would cook this down a little further until the meat browns, just a tad. We don't want it to burn, so just keep an eye on it, making sure that it doesn't stick or burn at the bottom. We're almost done. So here's how our chile looks. This is how it's progressing. We have roasted the jalapenos and the tomatoes until they've blistered. The peel of the tomatoes is basically kind of disintegrated, but you want to make sure that you've got a little bit of char on the tomato as well as on the jalapenos. Alright, so you can see we have our blistered jalapenos and our tomatoes. What we're going to do now is basically just blend them. I love to use this little handy-dandy Cuisinart. It's a small, basically a small food processor. It was the attachments to the Cuisinart Smart Stick, which is the immersion blender. And it has a small miniature food processor attachment, which is perfect for this. Alright. We're just going to give it, oh, if I can figure out how to use it, a whirl. Alright. So the end result is this beautiful, delicious roasted chile, this roasted hot sauce. It might be really spicy, and if that's the case, all you have to do is go back, roast another tomato or two, add that into this, and it'll basically help temper and tame a lot of that spice. If it's not spicy enough for you, maybe the jalapenos weren't actually that spicy, sometimes they come out like bell peppers, then you do the same with 1 or 2 more jalapenos. Really, it's a great recipe because you can, you know, adjust it as you see fit and to your taste. So we're going to add this to our meat sauce, essentially. That's another point. If you don't think you have enough sauce for your meat, depending on how much pork you've cooked up, you can make some more. Throw a couple more tomatoes in, 1 more jalapeno, boom, you've got more sauce for your meat. That should be a drinking game for this video. Every time I say meat, take a drink. Or 2. So our meat is ready. Take a drink. It has browned beautifully. I left it in a little bit, you know, let it kind of stick to the bottom here and there as I was stirring it, so that it browned up, got a really nice color. And we are just about done with this recipe. The last thing we do is essentially just add our chile to our carne. You can take a drink, since technically carne means meat. We're just gonna mix it up. And it looks like I'm gonna need to make a little more sauce because it isn't saucy enough to my liking. So I'm gonna go back and roast 2 more tomatoes and 1 more jalapeno. Alright, roasted 2 more tomatoes and another jalapeno. I'm just gonna chop this up, liquify this a bit. Alright. So we've got additional chile for all this meat. I'm just gonna pour that all over. Oh yeah. This is exactly how we want it to look. The best way I love to eat this is in a taco or a burrito. Just wrapped up in a tortilla. Real easy. Oh, here we go. I have to be careful because I added the bones while the meat was cooking to give it more flavor. So I obviously don't want to put bones in my taco, my burrito. Alright. There we go. Oh, this is delicious. like Mom made. It's delicious. I hope you enjoy the carne con chile. I know I'm going to. I won't tell you whether or not I eat this whole pot. But I guarantee, like I said, you'll impress yourself and you'll impress your guests and friends. Bon appetit. See you next time.